This video is sponsored by Squarespace. I will talk about them later in the video. First, let's talk about Areca Palm. Aren't they everywhere, from restaurants to offices to cafes to our homes behind me? This stylish tall plant with narrow fern-like leaves is an excellent air purifier too. However, Areca can also be a little fussy to grow, especially for beginners or especially if this is the first time you're growing this plant. But don't worry, we have got your back, and here is how you can care for this plant. Now, when it comes to caring for Areca, sunlight is really important. Areca palm can grow up to 30 feet in height, which means it needs a lot of space to grow. You can grow it both indoors and outdoors. All it needs is medium light space. In your room, balcony, outside a terrace, garden, office. Areca palm, it can actually tolerate direct sunlight as well, but you would see in that case it will become yellow. It is not an unhealthy plant in that case, but if you want a luscious green one, then you should keep it in a space that gets diffuse light, not direct sunlight. When it comes to temperature and humidity for this plant, Areca is not really fond of cold temperature, like winters is not when it does very well. So when the temperature goes under 20 degrees Celsius, you would notice that this plant starts becoming not so happy, and that's the problem you would see in air conditioned offices. So the temperature has to be between 20 to 35 degrees. If it gets too cool in your office, I would recommend other plants. Don't go for Areca. I know it's very trendy, but not the best choice in that case. Now for soil and fertilizer, moist soil is best for Areca. So you should add water whenever the soil on the top looks dry. But the soil should also be well draining. It shouldn't be such that the water is standing on the soil. Okay, and for that reason you would see that I use a lot of coco peat in my plants, especially in Areca. And for good nutrition, you can add some sort of a compost, because these are heavy feeders. That means they need a lot of fertilizer. So when I say that this plant is heavy feeder, I mean it needs to get fertilizer once in 3 months. However, do not feed Areca anything during the dormancy period, and winters is the dormancy period. So when the spring comes in, you can fertilize your plants and then follow that 3-month cycle. If you do in dormancy add fertilizer, nothing will really happen. Okay. Now, whenever the topsoil looks dry, you can add water. I use a watering can to add water. You can use a glass or mug. Just make sure if the topsoil is becoming compact, loosen that. It improves watering for Areca, especially if they're huge Areca. Small one like this, it does not matter so much, but huge ones like these, they are in 10-inch pots. In this case, you would see a lot of times that there is compactness in soil. And also remember, if there's hard water or fluoride in your water, then sometimes the plant looks burnt, and even when you're doing everything right, it's not actually you, it's the water. Now, pruning is also really important in Areca, because you would see that it starts to turn brown. So here it's a small one, I can just rip this away, but use a scissor for doing that. As for propagation, spring is the best time. You would hear a lot of spring in this video, right? Because this plant really enjoys this temperature and humidity of spring. So people can start them from seeds, cuttings. Best way I think to propagate is that when you see a pot full of this plant and you would see that the roots are coming out here, for example, then you can take this out and then you can separate the babies out. In that case, from one single plant, you will have many babies coming out of it, and then you plant them. Now, water this plant when you've propagated once in 24 hours and keep the pot away from direct sunlight. Give them some time for the plant to flourish, and once it establishes, then you can decide where you want to keep it. Another important factor that often gets ignored in this plant is the planter size. Remember, Arecas, they do not do very well in huge planters. Here you would see that this plant is about 2.5 feet in length, and it's in such a small pot, and it's doing beautifully here. So they do well in smaller spaces, in smaller pots. Now you will have to repot them, of course, once in a year. If you see the roots are coming out this way, it would need a bigger space, but you don't have to go from this size to 10-inch directly. Now, as for the problems with Areca, if there's something wrong with the Areca, you can mostly spot the signs on the leaves. It's a very communicative plant, I would say that way. So if it's yellowing or browning, that means that the plant is in some sort of a stress. Now you have to eliminate the factors. Is it underwatering? Is it overwatering? Is it the compactness of the soil? Is it root rot? Is it fungal attack? You will have to see what it could be. So go one by one and try fixing each of those problems. Now, resolving the watering issue, I think, is the easiest. Remember that you need to water this plant whenever the topsoil looks dry. And if you've been watching my videos, you know how I say you have to touch and feel the plant. Okay? And for getting away with compactness, use a trowel and loosen the soil. This will prevent compactness in soil. In fact, that's one thing you would notice Malis do a lot, right? People who maintain gardens. They continue loosening the soil. That helps with water drainage. Now, another possibility, a problem that I have seen is bacterial disease. In that case, also yellowing comes up. If that happens, then the best thing you can do is that affected plant is actually beyond repair. So just remove that bit and save the rest of the happy, healthy parts from getting infected. Now, aphids, mealybugs, mites, whiteflies also attack areca, but you can deal with them quite easily. You will have to use water pressure to dismount them, or neem oil spray also helps. Generally, I say prevention is better than cure, and one way to deal with it is areca does not like being too close to each other. Give them air circulation. Taller arecas are usually on the expensive side. Investing in a small areca palm is the smartest choice, I feel, and then you can let the plant grow. This video, I hope, will help you nurture this plant better and have happy arecas at home. In fact, I invested, I think about 1.5 years back, I got a lot of arecas. I have about 25 arecas, and finally I think I have sort of figured how this plant does over time. So winters is definitely the health goes down, but then in spring and summers it does well. Now I want to introduce you to Squarespace. It is a wonderful platform to start your own website. It allows you to connect with your audience or your followers very easily. In fact, you can also generate revenue through gated members only content. Squarespace helps you to create a community on your website because people can like, comment and even reply. Go to squarespace.com for a free trial, and when you're ready to publish, go to squarespace.com/gardenup to avail 10% off your first purchase of domain or website. I hope this simple video on Areca Palm helps you to understand what kind of care this plant really needs. Also, we have recently launched a bunch of new things on our store. Do remember to check them out. Thank you so much for watching this video. I will see you very, very soon. Take care.